welcome to the History Show. My name is Matt Scott, and we have a special guest today, Dean Contover, who served during the Vietnam War in Vietnam and also in Panama. And this is a program in which we're doing the oral histories of veterans who were both engaged in World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War. As a matter of fact, if there's any still around from World War I, though I don't think there are, we'd love to get you down here. If you happen to be a veteran who might be interested in appearing on this show or just having your history recorded, you can contact Chelmsford Telemedia. You can contact Allie at the Chelmsford Senior Center. And we'd love to be able to talk with you. Sometimes some of these oral histories are not even televised, but they are all sent to the Library of Congress for the Veterans Oral History Project. And we have a number of hours down there, and this is great for future historians, archivists, and people who will be doing research on these programs and stuff. Dean, welcome to the program here.
Thank you very much.
You're a Chelmsford resident.
That's correct.
A social worker.
That's correct.
But this goes back to a time long ago before you were ever in Chelmsford and stuff. Mm-hmm. What were you doing right before you joined? Did you join or were you drafted?
No, I was what they call RA Regular Army member. I joined specifically.
Up to that point, what were you doing? You were in college for
yeah, I was in college and I was in the business course, and it didn't appeal to me, so I sort of left college after a semester, and I decided that I should join the military because in those days, if you weren't drafted, you couldn't get a good job, because if you did try to apply for a job and they didn't want to train you because they expected you to be drafted in the military. So it was sort of a catch-22.
Yeah.
So you had to get your military time done and out of the way.
So you would be drafted.
Yes.
You were living in up in Lowell area before that time?
That's correct, right.
What year was that you joined?
It was I'll tell you the exact day. It was February 15th, 1965.
Did you join to go into a certain occupation or position?
Not really. I just joined to just get my military time in and get it out of the way so I can, obtain a job or go back to college.
So
on the GI Bill.
Yeah.
I mean,
where did you do your basic training?
I did it in Fort Jackson, South Carolina.
And what was that like? Was that a shock to the system for you at all, or did you adapt to it easily?
I'll tell you, it was 8 weeks. I never learned so much in 8 weeks of my life.
Really? And this is someone who had been to college?
That's correct.
And been
everything
to school?
was condensed in 8 weeks in regards to first aid, shooting a rifle, etc.
Now, you were a little bit more of a world traveler than a lot of your, a lot of the other people that were probably in your,
That's correct.
In basic training at the same time. You lived in Greece for a number of years.
That's correct.
And, so you probably approached it with a little bit more of a feeling of the kind of global events.
Yeah, I did. Oh, yeah, I was a student in international affairs and so forth like that. I did know what was going on in Vietnam and so forth, and I decided that to get my military obligation out of the way was to join.
Yeah.
And that's what I did. And I just felt that by going in the military, I would be exposed to other things, in regards to the United States government and how that operated also.
So the guys that you went to basic training, was that, what was that like? Was that?
You're not going to believe this, but when I went to basic training, I met a guy that I went to school with in Greece. I went to an English-speaking school in Athens,
Now that's a coincidence.
It was coincidence, but believe me, there were many coincidences like that while I was in the military.
Yeah.
Many coincidences.
And what were the rest of the guys like? Was it
they were
a varied population?
The population is, first of all, I'll tell you how varied population is. When we went into what they call 0 week, the first week where you get acclimated, you get your dog tags, you get your shots, you get your clothes, etc. We were in a room, and I never saw so many religions in one particular room, because I asked people their religions in regards to dog tags, because they put it on your dog tag. from what I understand, in World War II, they didn't do that. It wasn't that meant. It was just a specific religion. But now it got down to the Lutheran religion and so forth like that being put on the dog tag. And it was just, and they came from every state of the Union, every ethnic group. I mean, and then you have to weld these gentlemen or young boys into a fighting force.
And how did they meld?
I think over time they did very well in some units.
Yeah.
In some
Now
units.
this was also a period of time. You're down in South Carolina. This is also kind of when the civil rights movement is really starting up.
That's
Martin
correct.
Luther King is
That's
marching.
correct.
You know, they have what's going on in Alabama,
That's correct.
bombings.
That's
and,
correct. There was a very preponderance of Southerners in the military in regards to the higher echelon, enlisted men or in officers.
And then you were from one of the coasts and stuff, so probably had, especially from Massachusetts, which is...
Well, the Northeast specifically.
Yeah, the Northeast, and which kind of has a different outlook and stuff. I mean, was there a
was
collision of beliefs? going on,
Collision
or-
of some cultures and philosophies, yeah, in some respect, in some units that I was in.
Yeah, but probably while you're going through basic training, most of the time you're probably too tired to really...
Yeah, you're very exhausted and so forth like that. You get up early, they get you up early, physical training in the morning and running and, doing exercise like that. So by the time you hit the sack by 10 o'clock, it's, you're well on your way to dreamland, so to speak.
Just for our people that might not be aware, can you just talk about a day of basic training, say a week into it?
Okay,
As a sample?
Okay, let's try to. I'm trying to recall everything. First of all, you issue clothes, boots, so forth. They tell you that you're one of the best dressed armies in the world and so forth like that because, and it's probably true because of the money they spend on you. They give you 2 boots, 2 pairs of boots, a pair of shoes, 2 dress uniforms, 1 winter, one summer, and what happens in basic, and they give you fatigues to wear during basic training, with your name tag, United States Army, across the pockets, and then you have your rank on your arms, and what happens in basic training is they issue a rifle. That's the most important thing in the military. And you try to remember the serial number of your rifle. They teach you the serial number of your rifle. I think mine started with 11. I can't remember the specific number, but some people know the numbers even today. I mean, it's. I'll go through a montage of things that we did. A lot of running with the rifles, a lot of marching. They wanted to make a cohesive unit into you, so the marching was very important. The rifle was used in regards to bayonet training, and we had an M14 rifle with a bayonet scabbard, and we would practice our bayonet training. The art of the bayonet. You know the art of the bayonet?
I don't know the art of the bayonet.
The art of the bayonet is the quick or the dead.
Okay.
And you had to yell that.
Oh, really? Okay.
It was specific moves, how to parry, how to move, and they had stationary objects with tires there, and they teach you this movement with your rifle and so forth like that. I mean, they're making you into a warrior.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't know what a warrior is, but they're making you into a warrior.
Can you give us a little calendar of a day? I mean, what time? I mean, just waking up.
You get up in the morning. The bugle sound, even today.
The bugle does sound.
Yes, the bugle does sound. You get up in the morning. You may have a run in the morning.
At what time?
We're talking about 6 o'clock in the morning.
Okay.
All right. You have a run. Then you go into breakfast, right? And you go into breakfast. You eat breakfast. You go out and do your PT. It could be in the morning. PT could be in the morning. It could be later in the day. It varies. Then you do some classwork in regards to. I'm just trying to think. Different types of classwork, like first aid.
Okay.
All right. They'll teach you on the battlefield. Everyone has on the web gear a little a pouch that has a Band-Aid into it. So if you're injured, they open your pouch, take the Band-Aid, and apply it to your arm or wherever you're injured.
Okay.
You never take your bandage out. It's always the person's bandage that's injured.
Okay.
And you learn basic first aid. You
Yeah.
learn marching. You learn how to march, right face, left face,
Yeah.
about face, saluting, the carrying of the colors, things like that.
Okay.
And, basic patriotic stuff like the flag, how
Yeah.
should it be carried and where it should be placed, and
Right.
so forth like that. Then they usually give you time for lunch. Sometimes later in your basic training, they would take you to the rifle range. You could march out there or you could ride out there. Usually they wanted you to march out there. You would fire your rifle. You'd get 25-meter range. They wanted you to shoot 3 clusters in the target. I have my targets with me.
How'd you do?
You'll see the
Okay.
holes right
Yeah.
over the target, the clusters.
Yeah.
They wanted you to get your rifle, what they call elevated and windage, exactly right, so you can hit the target in a 3-shot cluster. It's very important, that 3-shot cluster to them. You might learn go to the gas mask range. They call it CBR in those days. Now they call it MBC.
Okay.
You would go to, you learn to put on your gas mask in 9 seconds. Even in those days, it was
Yeah.
gas masks. Basically, the primary gas at that time, even though we're familiar with World War I and mustard gas, but the primary gas was CS, basically tear gas.
Yeah.
You would go into a hut and they would tell you to take off your mask, say your name, serial number, and get out of the hut. And
Yeah.
you're gagging with this.
Oh, okay.
Then we were outside, and the officer would come by with a tear gas on a stick and
Yeah.
carry it over us. So we had to take our gas mask out of our pouch, blow it out,
Yeah.
suck it in so it would fit around your face,
Yeah.
and then you were ready within 9 seconds. Now, if you had a rifle, you would put the rifle between your legs, put
Yeah.
your helmet on the rifle,
Yeah.
take your gas mask out, all in 9 seconds.
Wow.
So it's very important. And believe me, you can do it in 8.
So let me. At night, after you finish your day, you're
Okay.
going through all these various classes, training and stuff like
Right.
that. You all have dinner together at night,
That's correct, yeah.
and then
In the mess hall, they
yeah,
call it.
and it's night a time for kind of.
Well, in basic training, you had to clean your weapon, you had to do fix your locker up, wash your clothes, fold your clothes correctly because your clothes had to be folded correctly for inspection.
Yeah.
And they would come by and inspect periodically. You had to make sure that your bunk was tight enough that a quarter would bounce off your blanket.
Right. And then, did you have the weekends? Any time on the weekends? for
No,
leave?
not really. Not really. No. It was always either guard duty or something like that they would assign you to. In regards to, I remember being on guard duty and challenging someone on guard duty, and they had to produce their ID card.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any rounds in my rifle. All I had is my rifle.
Yeah. So you finished basic training as a private.
I finished basic training as an E2, which was a private,
Okay.
but not an E1 private. It was a little higher echelon, I believe it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where'd you go from there?
From there, I went home after that. And,
Okay.
I spent 30 days at home, and then I went to training back down to Fort Jackson.
Now, when you came home, you came back to Lowell? Or?
Yeah, I
Okay.
came.
At that point, after you'd been through basic training and stuff like that, were you? You thought you'd made the right decision and everything, or was the Army okay with you?
Not really. I knew that I had to stick it out and prove to myself that I could stick it out. It was
Right.
8 weeks of
But it wasn't
learning. No, I looked
fun.
at it as a positive thing in regards to basic training.
Okay.
Because it was so quick. It was fast. I'll give you an incident in basic training. Is one day I didn't shave. And my Sergeant Poindexter, I remember his name today.
Poindexter?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that'd be a hard name to forget.
Yes, nice southern name. And he made me shave without any soap or water or lather on my face in a Jeep mirror.
Oh.
That was so I wouldn't forget to
Yeah.
shave the next time,
Which you didn't.
which I did not.
Yeah.
That's correct. I
So-
mean, there's incidents like that where they're very harsh with you.
Right, yeah.
I mean, there were, in some cases, there were attempted suicides and so forth like that. I mean, there's some people who just
Within
couldn't-
your unit, or?
yeah, after basic training, there was an incident in my unit where there was a young man who attempted suicide.
Because it was just too much.
Yeah, for some people.
Yeah.
Or they got out or requested to get out.
And of course, at this point, unlike today, this was a mixture of draftees and our regular Army.
And regular Army, but they also had National Guard and basic training, what they call ERs, which were reservists,
Oh, okay.
Army.
Yeah. Now, you went, so after leave, where'd you go to?
I went back to Fort Jackson.
Okay.
Got training in light vehicle training course or something to that effect. It was, I think, a 6 or 8 week course or something like that.
Do you know why you, was this something you had requested?
No,
or
I didn't.
Something they had suggested to you?
They put me there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things that I wanted to be a photographer, but that wasn't going to go with the military, you know. I do that now, you know,
Oh, do you
as
really?
an amateur. But,
Oh,
I mean,
great.
But
you have to
I
spend a
did.
little more time
I did take
around here.
pictures in Vietnam, by the way.
Yes,
I mean,
which
yeah.
we're going to be showing some of those.
Okay. All right.
So yeah, you were probably one of the million guys who wanted to go to that photography school.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot of, I know a lot of would-be filmmakers that have tried to go that
Well,
way.
the thing is that I wanted to. I didn't want to go into infantry.
Yeah.
Because I knew they would be, but photographer goes into infantry too, because
Sure.
they take pictures of the infantry.
Yeah. You're making an art out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
So how'd you adopt to the, you know, that was basically a school for mechanics?
Well, no, it was all the vehicles to learn how to drive all the vehicles in the military, because you got a specific license for every vehicle in the military, whether it's a Jeep, a 3/4 ton truck, or a 2.5 ton truck, or a 5 ton truck, or a 10 truck. You had to have a license, and you had to be licensed for all those vehicles, or you couldn't drive them in the military.
And how'd you adopt to that?
I didn't mind it because, you know why? In the long run, I got to see a lot of things.
Yeah.
Because I was a driver, and eventually it progressed to where I was a radio operator and a driver for particular officers in my progression in the military.
Yeah. So after you went to that school, and that was a 5-week course, you said?
I think 6 to 8 weeks. I don't recall.
6 to 8 weeks, okay. Where'd you go from there?
I was assigned to Panama Canal zone.
Now, was that a surprise to you, or did you think that maybe, because a lot of the guys at that point, this is 1966 still?
Yeah.
Well, there was a fair amount of people being shipped off to Vietnam, right?
Yeah, there was some people, but mostly at that time there was no specific units there at that time. It was basically advisors and so forth, and most of them were officers. But there were some people who were going there. But I was assigned to Panama, and I think, relatively speaking, is that in 1964 there were riots in Panama in regards to the Panamanians uprising against the Americans controlling the canal.
Yeah.
And they had to reinforce that, and I think there were 6 people in my unit that were assigned to, 6 to 8 people that were assigned to it.
What some people might not realize is Panama, at that point, we had a 100-year lease.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, 99.
We don't have that anymore.
No, we're no longer. I don't believe we have any military bases there at all.
Yeah.
But
what was Panama like then when you went there?
It was hot, and I'll tell you, my barracks did not have any windows. They just had screens on the windows, and that was it year round.
Yeah. And it was, I mean,
I was in the infantry unit. There was a unit called the 193rd Infantry Brigade that was down there, and it comprised of 3 battalions. And I was in the 4th Battalion Mechanized 20th Infantry.
And what would you spend your time doing?
Going on operations and so forth in the jungle. And we had a place called Rio Hatta, which was 80 miles, which was an airfield 80 miles on the Pacific side. I was on the Pacific side of Panama Canal. It was a training camp that we used to train there.
Yeah.
Our main function was to protect the locks on the Pacific side, which was the the Maraflora locks, and I can't recall the other lock, but there's 2 locks on the Pacific side and 1 lock on the Atlantic side.
Now, was that a fairly uneventful?
No, it was
tour?
always operations. It was always training. A lot of people were rotated through there because it was a jungle warfare school before they went to Vietnam. A lot of people used to go through the jungle warfare school, and sometimes my unit would operate with the jungle warfare school in regards to they were the counterforce in regards to any operations. I was basically in headquarters company. I was a driver for a lieutenant and a radio, what they call an RTO, a radio operator.
Did you have any interaction with the local population?
Oh yeah, all the time. Yeah, all the time.
And how were relations?
Good. What our unit had to be on call, or had to have at least 80% of the men on base for any riots that might happen in the Canal Zone.
Yeah.
The line units, which I was not, I was in headquarters unit, would practice riot control because of the incident that happened in 1964. You would see them on the parade ground practicing wedge formations and so forth like that for any type of riots and so forth.
Now, out of curiosity,
but we still were an infantry unit. I mean,
because I'd like to set the whole scene and stuff.
Right.
You were in this is 66 to 67, or
no, I was
still 66?
65 to 66.
Oh, in Panama.
Yeah.
Okay. And during that time, I mean, there was a cultural revolution going on in the United States. There's the music.
I think. Well, I think that didn't really happen to 66 to 67. In 66 or 67, I had just went to Vietnam, so I sort of missed the Cultural Revolution because I was in Panama for
Right, so you weren't really
months.
getting it there? You were listening to the tango or whatever?
No, we were listening to probably soul music or something like that,
Yeah.
or Detroit, what's that, Motown sound? Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Motown sound, basically. That was what we listened to,
But
basically.
what was going on strongly at that time was the civil rights movement and stuff like that. And was there a tension in Panama between white and black?
Let me tell you a little history of the Panama. A lot of the whites who settled in the Canal Zone, right, came down in the early, when the canal was built, it was complete, I think, in 1912. They came down from the south basically because they could handle the weather, and they lived down there. So they brought their prejudice and they brought their with them.
Yeah.
So for 30 or 40 years, that festered because they lived in the Canal Zone. They lived a good life. It was sort of a colonial life that they lived.
Because they were American citizens.
They were American, that's correct.
Yeah.
They were American citizens, but they still had that Southern attitude, so to speak.
Sure.
A lot of blacks in my unit because there are a lot of black Panamanians, a lot of Hispanics in my unit. At that time, they didn't call them Hispanics, but there were a lot of Hispanics because they spoke the language because it was Spanish. So they had a lot of Spanish members in my infantry just to mingle with the people.
Yeah.
I used to go into town all the time because a lot of the guys didn't want to go into town. They didn't have the money to go into town.
Yeah.
We would get paid once a month.
What was happening between relations between the soldiers themselves and stuff? I mean, you're dealing with Spanish and blacks and whites and white Southerners.
In the infantry unit, it's sort of cohesive. I mean, they were pretty good. I mean, there wasn't really any problems. I mean, it was just that, and where I was the guy that was RTO, they talked to me because of what's going on, because I had the radio, and I would just feed them with the information and so forth like that, and just to keep things. Because there was always rumors in the military.
Now, going to Vietnam, that was your choice.
That's correct.
I mean, you requested that.
Yeah, I volunteered. I was one of the...
Why?
I think I wanted to experience war at the time. Not that I was a warmonger or anything. I just wanted to experience war at my age at that time. I didn't want it to go by me, and I had an opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
That was my... I was one of 2 people at that time who volunteered from our outfit and everything. But allegedly they were only taking volunteers to go to Vietnam.
At that point?
At that point.
Okay. And so when did you land there? Do you know the date?
It was May of 1966. We were in a chartered flight was air conditioned. World Airways out of Oakland, California.
Okay.
That's where the company was based. But we
Right.
flew out of Oakland.
Stopped in Hawaii.
Stopped in Hawaii. That's
Yeah.
correct. Right.
And then flew into Saigon.
Flew into Saigon. That's
Yeah.
correct. And
Or did you stop in Japan?
no,
along the way?
no. Some did, but we stopped
Okay.
in Hawaii. Some stopped in Guam.
Yeah.
But they refueled. We were on the ground in Hawaii for 4 hours.
Now you had been going through a lot of jungle warfare training and
Yeah, I
stuff
thought
while
I
you were
was
there, so-
proficient, pretty good, because I was an RTO, and I had a confidential clearance.
And it's basically the same climate.
Yeah,
Right?
that's correct.
In
That's
fact,
correct.
Vietnam might even be a little bit more pleasant climate than.
At some places
Yeah.
it was. I mean,
Yeah.
during monsoon and so forth like that.
So
I just want to tell you, in regards to when I was a driver in there and I had a radio, I used to carry my code book around my neck, and the codes used to change at noontime every day. But that's only when I was in operations that I would carry my code book.
Yeah.
The code book was about this big.
Yeah.
I had a rope that would carry it. I'd get it out of the safe, and they would, I'd have
Right.
to carry it on my body. So that's a little aside, but
yeah.
I mean, it's interesting.
So you landed in Saigon in
at nighttime.
Yeah.
I think we did see some flashes at night, and we landed at Tunstnut Air Force Base, and we got out of the plane. It was hot and smelly. It was just boom.
Yeah, I mean, there's
the
an
humidity.
intensity of the of
Going
the
from air
sense that-
conditioning to
Yeah, and what do you remember it all? I mean, were you?
I remember going in the terminal, them saying, "Don't speak to the baggage carriers," because we didn't have Piastre, which was the monetary unit of Vietnam.
Yeah.
Don't deal with them. Talk to some guys who were with the 173rd Airborne Brigade in Vietnam who were rotating home. And
You did talk to some guys.
Yeah.
And
It
so what was
wasn't
the
pleasant.
feedback you were getting
It wasn't
from them?
pleasant, let's put
Oh,
it that way,
really?
yeah. Well, I mean, they were basically, hardcore infantry guys, airborne
Yeah.
paratroopers and so forth. And, they were going home. They had put their year in. They were
Yeah.
going out because everybody put usually a year in.
But I mean, did you get a message from them? Like-
Yeah, I mean, it was tough. I mean, it was tough going. I mean,
Yeah. So what happened to you?
Well, I was
Initially, when you
yeah,
got
they
up
put you in sort of a replacement center, and then they give you orders in regards to where you're going to go in Vietnam.
Yeah.
My orders said that I was going to be assigned to the 299th Combat Engineers.
which are
Which
part
were-
of.
Well, the United States Engineers, but I mean, which were in the northern part of the country, we're about 200 miles north of Saigon.
And how soon did they get you over there?
I'd say within 3 days I was on a plane flying up north to Quy Nhon.
Those previous 3 days to that, were you just basically in Saigon or right outside of?
In Saigon, getting prepped and given jungle, we had, they gave us these jungle sort of things to wear on the face
Yeah.
in case we got bit and so forth, and screens basically, for the helmet and for your sleeping and everything. And I'll tell you one thing, we put those on every night in regards to our sleeping. We had those draped over our beds and so forth like that, this sort of mesh screening.
Yeah.
It was cloth or nylon or whatever it is, but we never slept without those.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Unless we were out in the field.
We have gone half an hour, so we're going to do another half hour with you.
All right,
okay,
that's fine.
because we're just we haven't talked about Vietnam or anything.
Yeah, I know.
So I want to thank you, and we'll be back together very soon
Okay,
to talk
very
about
good.
this.
Okay.
And thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
War to rationing. And the Screen magazine, in its second issue, tried to explain. wanted to know that what he could do if they would improve in more greater cities, becoming monuments to the courage and faith of the unschooled Americans. Buffalo hunter who with his breaking oak made the old wild from these broken streets.
Welcome back to the History Show. We're here for the second part of a conversation with Dean Contover. Again, just a quick aside, these conversations are being recorded and they are going to be archived at the National Library, the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. And if you're a veteran who might be interested in having your story archived for historical record purposes and other research purposes and stuff like that, you can contact Allie at the Chelmsford Senior Center. You can contact us here at Chelmsford Telemedia. Thank you for being with us, and Dean Contover, thank you again. When we left you, you had been through basic training in South Carolina. They taught you how to drive various military vehicles, and then you spent 9 months in Panama.
That's correct.
And
In the infantry.
And then you volunteered for Vietnam.
That's correct.
And in May of 1967, is that, or 66? 66, which is fairly early.
It is.
In Vietnam.
It was.
I mean,
That's
that
correct.
period of intensity basically goes from maybe 67 to 69, almost a couple years where things were really hot, and then we started pulling troops out after that shortly. So you landed in Saigon, and 3 days later you were shipped off to a small base.
Well, I was shipped to the city of Quy Nhon, which was a coastal city in northern north-south Vietnam.
What was that like, that city then?
It was very interesting. It was pretty cosmopolitan, I would say, for a city.
Do you have any idea what the population was around?
This would be an estimate, probably 200,000, 100,000. It was a major port city for them.
Was there anything left? I mean, a lot of people, some people might not realize that, of course, Vietnam was a French colony.
Right.
And as was Cambodia, and as was Laos.
That's correct.
Did you see was there anything of that left over?
Yes, there were.
Were there French or just architecture and stuff?
I think that you could see that in some of the Vietnamese people.
Yeah.
Some of the girls were French Vietnamese. Some of the men were French Vietnamese. You could see certain strategic fortifications that were done by French. Airfields that we worked on were done by French, specifically the airfield that I worked on in An Khê, Vietnam. There was sand underneath the airfield. We couldn't figure out, as an engineer, we couldn't figure out why you would want to put sand under the airfield. But then, again, I don't want to lambaste the French.
Yeah.
So.
What was the city like?
The units that were based in the city were basically engineering units and transportation units, because most of them transported goods and supplies to the units in the field, which was there were basically two highways leading out of Quy Nhon. North-south was Route 1, and going to the west was Route 19. And most of the bases were to the west in the interior of Vietnam.
So supplies would come in through the harbor?
That's correct.
Be loaded onto the truck?
That's correct.
And then you drive
And
it
they
off.
would escort him. I would be a common escort of a military escort, which would you have jeeps and armored personnel sometimes with they were always escorted.
Were you stationed right in the city there?
I was stationed just outside of Quy Nhon. We had a special base, basically, that was, our unit was, that I was attached to. It was an engineer unit that was attached, or compound, basically, of transportation and engineering units at the time. There was no infantry there because basically Quy Nhon was basically a secure city. You could go to town in your civilian clothes, and you're allowed to stay in the town up to 10 o'clock at night. So it's pretty secure.
Really?
Yeah.
Any problems there at all?
None whatsoever. There were Koreans. The Rock Army was there, and the Vietnamese didn't mess with the Rock Army at all. I think it was the
Rock Army?
Yeah, the Republic of.
Well, why didn't they mess with them at all? Just because
they were brutal.
They were brutal.
Yeah, they were brutal.
And were there many
to
of
prisoners?
them?
They would. They basically were the ones that were based along Highway 19 going west. They were at strategic points and bridges and so forth like that, going west. And basically, Route 1 basically was cut off going north and south of Quy Nhon, but they were in the perimeter, north and south. I'll tell you what, they did know how to pick rice and so forth, because I saw them in the fields helping the Vietnamese people picking rice. I always wanted to do that, but I never got a chance to do that. It would have been something I would have liked to learn.
Did you spend any time in the city wandering around?
Oh yeah, I did. You know, and the local tavern, so to speak. For entertainment and so forth like that.
I mean, was it kind of a wild town, or?
Not really. I mean, there were always patrols. I mean, you had the local police, but there were always army patrols that went through town. Usually, most of them were 3-man patrols with a radio operator and 3. I don't know whether they were all military police or infantry, but later on in other towns that I was in, they were always infantry patrolling the towns that Americans were in.
Now, how would relations be between the regular, townspeople and
No
yourself
problem.
and
I mean, we had the money and we spent it, and they liked us for the money, I presume. I mean, they were making money off of us. We had military script, which PCP, military payment certificates. We didn't have dollars. They changed that over just before I got there. They didn't use cash at all.
Yeah. Now, and you had come from one subtropical country, Panama,
Right.
to another.
Right.
So the climate was pretty much the same.
That's correct.
The food, it was spicy, right?
Yeah, if we got into town and we did eat, specifically, it was sort of spicy. You know. I think I had the basic spaghetti, with spiced up sauce and so forth like that. I mean, I didn't venture too far at the time.
Yeah. Wait, how about just health and stuff? I mean, going into another country, did you have any health issues or anything like that there?
Believe it or not, when I got to Quy Nhon, the unit I was assigned to was ready to be pulled out, and I had strep throat, and I was assigned to a hospital there, and my unit had left, and I was still there at the base. They administered penicillin. I think I was in the hospital for 2 or 3 days.
Yeah.
And because they were just concerned about me, coming down with some sort of disease, especially in the tropics.
Sure, yeah.
And then I went to my unit, which was based off of Route 19, called An Khê, Vietnam. That's right. AN.
Now, where's that?
KE. It was about 50 miles west of Quy Nhon.
Okay.
It was the home base of the 1st Cavalry Division. And my unit was assigned or attached. It's quantitative. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
Whether it was assigned or attached is a big thing there. But we were assigned into that area because we were assigned to build an airfield, a major airfield there.
So the process of doing that, I mean, there was no airfield when you went there?
No, there was basically 2 airfields.
Okay.
One inside the perimeter, which the perimeter of An Khê was basically, I believe it was 9 square miles. Camp Radcliffe, they called it. And then there was one on the fringe of and that's the one that we were supposed to work on, and we were there for months.
What was going on around you at that point? I mean,
when I got to An Khê?
Yeah. Did you have the feeling of a war?
Oh yeah, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. I mean, you're talking about one of the major divisions that we had in Vietnam, and they were there early. It was An Khê was the biggest heliport in the world at that time. The 1st Air Cav was assigned organically to that Division, 465 helicopters were assigned to the 1st Cavalry, and there were helicopters coming and going all the time. Guinness Book of World Records had that in their
Really?
book for the biggest helipad in the world.
And what were you? I mean, what was your particular job at that point?
Our particular job was to transport crushed rock for building roads, for building the concrete for the runway. That was basically our job. We built a 60-ton ice plant there. We built a telephone exchange there.
And was all
which
that
is
stuff
underground.
self-generating too? The ice plant and everything, all run on generators, obviously.
Oh yeah.
You weren't getting power in or anything like that.
No, definitely not.
So you were
Everything-
kind of
we had
building
electricity.
a small city there.
That's correct. We had a post office, there. It was basically a small city. You're correct.
And there were roads coming in.
There were roads coming in.
Yeah. Were they safe to travel on?
in the compound?
No, the roads that were coming in.
Well, because you had Koreans periodically along the road and so forth like that, and got a chance to talk to some Koreans when we stopped at the apex of the Central Highlands that we were going into. They were pretty nice and they were aggressive soldiers, because you have to remember they fought the Korean War. A lot of these guys or have the history of fighting communism, and they didn't like communists.
Yeah.
Or the Viet Cong, as we called them, or Charlie.
So there were, I mean, you don't hear too much about the Koreans being involved with Vietnam.
No, they had a Marine Brigade there, and they had 2 divisions, the White Horse Division and the Tiger Division there.
And they were
and
very
basically
tough.
in our area, yeah, it was the Tiger Division.
Yeah.
In fact, they did give me a patch to their division. I have it at home.
So what kind of action was happening, in the perimeter of the...
Well, there were guard towers at the perimeter with barbed wire strung around the whole basin, and then there was a secondary barbed wire. In the primary area, there were towers, which were basically, I would say, maybe 50 yards apart. The cavalry units or the infantry unit battalion would come in and sort of have an R&R, but they would protect the perimeter. We would, as support units, would send our men, maybe 12 would be assigned to them at nighttime to protect the perimeter. And we were told that if you shoot anyone or anything, you better be able to pull a body in that morning through the wire.
Oh, really?
That's what we were told.
Yeah.
They didn't want shooting discriminately.
Yeah. What was morale like at that point?
I think it was good at that time, because we're talking about 66, 67. Most of the people were well trained. There weren't too many. There were draftees, but there weren't too many draftees. And a lot of them had come from other units like myself, so we were sort of motivated. I don't think till after 68, 69, that's where it started to break down.
Yeah. But there
morale
was you were talking about of the
cohesiveness.
45 people that were in your unit, there was, there were issues dealing with prejudice.
Yep.
And that kind of
That's
stuff.
correct.
Can you talk? What was going on at that point?
In my unit, it was a platoon that I was in. 45 of the young men and sergeants and so forth. We had one lieutenant that was our officer, and out of the 45, not counting the lieutenant, 15 had graduated from high school. 2 of them had some college, which basically I was one of the 2.
Yeah.
And basically I was from the north. So I was like hung out there to dry, so to speak. Most of the enlisted men, the sergeants, were basically Southerners, and the civil rights movement in regards to the 60s and so forth. So they brought their prejudices, in my opinion, with them, and it was very tough going for a lot of the blacks and so forth.
Now this is something that the Army has dealt with probably more progressively in later
Oh,
years
even then they
in
dealt
civilian
with it,
society.
but it was under, there was an undertow of that, prejudice and so forth like that. I mean,
That must have been difficult for, well, especially if you're black and you're having to deal with that, and on the other hand, you're fighting for your country there.
That's correct.
But it would still go on.
Yes.
How about the relations between the Vietnamese army, you know, the South Vietnamese army, and the soldiers, at least the ones that you're dealing with?
There was some of the units, there was a lot of respect. The airborne units, the ranger units of the South Vietnamese, the ARVNs, they called them, Army Republic of Vietnam. A lot of, specifically the infantry who dealt with him, a lot of them didn't trust him because they caught him changing uniforms and so forth. I mean, which is not uncommon in warfare. I mean, you heard stories about that.
Sure, yeah. After you were there for, how long were you stationed at the?
An Khê?
Yeah.
I was stationed in An Khê, let's see, from probably May, because I just got over there. I went to the hospital and they moved out to September, and then we went on Operation Duke.
Okay, which we're going to get into.
Okay.
But just by the time September, late August and stuff, I mean, were you accepting this? Were you bored? Were you scared?
No, I wasn't. I wasn't scared. I was confident. And there's nothing wrong with being confident. I mean, it was just I was confident with my skills. I grew up in New York City, so I mean, it's sort of growing up in the big city. You kind of have a little confidence in yourself
Sure.
and so forth.
Sure.
I was confident in myself in regards to that. I accepted the poverty that I did see. I think for a lot of American soldiers, it was a culture shock for them by living overseas also, and seeing poverty overseas and seeing poverty in Vietnam. It wasn't really a big culture shock for me.
Now, also, I should say you have a history background. You majored in history in college and stuff.
That's
so you
correct.
and you had some college by the time you were over there. As far as I mean, you have the stuff that's going on with your unit, but there's also the big picture of what was going on there. And were you thinking at the time this is all working, or this doesn't make sense, or do you remember having any feelings at all about that?
Well, I remember McNamara saying that he saw the light to the end of the tunnel, but no one ever told him it was a red light. You know? So, I mean, red light for communism, if you understand the gist of it, you know. The big picture, the big picture is that we had radio 24 hours a day, mostly. We'd get the news, but it was censored, so to speak.
Okay.
We'd get Stars and Stripes from Japan, but it was.
They didn't have
it was
CNN back then.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. We did have TV in An Khê, by the way. Eventually,
you did?
Yeah, we had some sort of TV. Never. I think I saw it once because not too many people had TV sets. But,
Sure.
Yeah, but 24 hours a day, mostly in the morning. They had Southern music, and I wasn't a purveyor of Southern music at all. And
were people breaking off into different groups depending on music or
Yeah,
something
that's
like
true,
that?
yeah,
I mean,
yes,
you had
yes.
the Motown group, you
Yes.
have the Southern music group, you
Yeah.
had the rock and roll, or
Yeah, that's correct. You had people from the East Coast and West Coast basically gelling together from California, Oregon. They had sort of the same philosophy, and respectful of the blacks from the South and respectful of the blacks from the North and so forth like that. And then you had the Southerners who listened to country music and so forth like that. Nothing wrong with country music. I mean,
absolutely,
you know,
absolutely. Yeah.
but they gelled to themselves.
Yeah.
And then you had the Midwesterners that they didn't know what was going on.
Nothing against Midwestern.
Nothing against Midwesterners. No, I'm only kidding. I mean, they're good guys.
Yeah.
But you know, it's sort of like I think the East and West Coast is a little faster than the Midwest and so forth. It was more American, so to speak, the Midwest versus the ethnic groups, whether they were Chinese on the West Coast or Korean or Japanese and so forth, with the ethnic groups, the European ethnic groups and everything. The Midwest to me was like, you know, Lutheran, you know, that type of thing.
Sure.
So they were that groups, and sometimes they would go to war with each other, you know.
And you know, you're based there. I mean, it was basically a mini city. I mean, the biggest
You're
heliport
right.
in the world
That's
and
correct.
stuff. I mean, things
It's-
were always going 24 hours a day.
Yeah,
and-
yeah. In fact, we had an artillery. The 19th Artillery Battalion was next to us, even though they were out in the field most of the time, but they had a lot of big guns right next to us. Like 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock. It all depends when they got up and when they were told to get up. And they fired volleys over the mountains and so forth just to harass the Viet Cong. And then they go back to sleep.
Yeah.
And they would wake us up and then we'd go back to sleep. And but that was consistency of that. Or else if they had they spotted some Viet Cong or there was contact over the mountain ranges, they would fire volleys off, right? Like for an hour. Boom, boom,
Now,
boom,
did
boom.
you ever see any Viet Cong or NVA
Yeah,
or
I-
anything
oh,
up,
yeah.
up at, while you were there? Or
Yeah, yeah.
basically in the form of prisoners, or
I saw prisoners and so forth, yeah.
but there weren't any. I mean, you didn't see like any they wouldn't really-
Massive charge, no.
Right, no, because, I
no.
mean, this was
'Cause
just too big.
basically, like I said, I was in this particular compound. We were protected, so to speak.
Sure.
It was sort of like the cavalry versus the Indians.
Okay.
And they would attack and probe the fort.
Right.
And we would repel them and so forth like that with our helicopters. We would get the armored aerial artillery
Yeah.
up in the air, and the helicopters would just fire their rockets into the enemy who would try to probe the base
Yeah.
and so forth like
Now,
that. It was very unique watching a helicopter firing rockets. I mean, you see that on television,
Yeah.
but when you're seeing it and the noise and so forth like
sure.
that.
Operation Duke.
Right.
What is what you were assigned to after? What was that?
Well, Operation Duke was, at least we thought, we heard from headquarters that it was to build an airfield in Bon San, or Day Duc. My orders say Day Duc, Vietnam, which is north of Bon San, which was also a coastal city. Basically,
Was this in North Vietnam? Or,
no,
or
this was in
South?
South Vietnam
okay,
also.
South Vietnam.
It was from where I was located in An Khê. It was going east, northeast, about 60 miles. But we're talking about 60 miles of rough terrain, no roads and so forth. So we had to go. We had a convoy from An Khê when I had orders for Operation Duke, go to Quy Nhon.
Which
and-
was where you initially were.
Initially,
yeah.
exactly. And load up our equipment because we had a lot of heavy equipment. We're talking about earth scrapers, payloaders, trucks. We had to bring fuel with us. So what we had to do is we had to load that on a ship.
Yeah.
We had landing craft. We went into this landing ship dock, they called it. We landed in there. They hoisted our equipment up, the sailors, and put all our equipment on the ship to make a landing by sea.
Wow.
Yeah.
Boy, that's a kind of a big endeavor there.
Oh yeah, it was. I mean, it was a major operation because they wanted this airfield expanded.
So you loaded up on ships and then they go up the coast a bit?
Yeah, we went up the coast and we made a landing. 3 days prior to that, a bridge company, and I don't remember the specific numeral number to the company, and the A Company and the 19th Engineer Battalion for security of the bridge company built some bridges from the beach inland to where we were going to go in regards to building this airfield or expanding this airfield. Supposedly it was a 2-week endeavor, but it took 2 months.
So when you went into that beach, I mean, was that a beach located by a town, or was that basically a lot of kind of jungles that you were...
Jungle canopy up to the beach line, and then you had sand to the beach. But basically they had moved in 3 days before to build these
Yeah.
bridges, just like the one in Lowell that they have, the Rock Bridge. It was
Sure,
bridges like
sure,
that
yeah.
that shouldn't be there at all. What happened is we offloaded, and it took us 3 days to offload. But in the meantime, we had a destroyer going up and down the coast, peppering the beach.
Yeah.
We had jets to the north of us attacking the beach line because I guess there was some probing from Viet Cong.
Yeah.
Believe me, when you see a jet and you're in a combat situation, as far as I was concerned, I saw God.
Oh, really? That was... Yeah.
Yeah. The power of a jet and what it could do to save you. It's sort of like God's hand. Just,
Sure.
that's the only way I could relate to
Yeah.
it.
Now, and then were you getting these? Did you? Were there a lot of these probing attacks from?
They
WC,
sort of beat them off, but basically I was one of the last ones off the ship. It took them 3 days to offload because of heavy equipment. I mean, and then you're talking about put them on smaller boats to take them into the beach and then run up. And there was, I'd rather have them out there on the beach for 2 days than me on the ship.
Sure.
Because what happened in the ship is they shut the lights out, so the ship wouldn't get hit or mortared or something like that. And then we offloaded. I think I was the last landing craft or next to last landing craft to make the beach. We got in there and we went inland and convoyed in, went across one of the bridges that they had built, and then got onto on the road and got into Vietnamese compound there. And it was a small compound, I would say no bigger than, oh boy, I'm just trying to relate, no bigger than probably Fenway Park to give you an example.
Okay.
It was a very small compound.
Yeah.
And when we got there, they were probing by Viet Cong shootings and so forth like that. But we were protected by Vietnamese infantry, 44th Regiment. I'm trying to remember the division that they were, and we were also protected by a mechanized unit, a Vietnamese mechanized unit. The number I can't remember. And at this compound that we stopped for the night, I talked to the executive officer of the mechanized unit, and he wanted me to be an advisor with the him and another gentleman that we were talking to. And he said he would call Westmoreland and so forth to be advisor. But I mean, when you see a armored personnel carrier M113 off the side of the road that was blown up, I mean, you kind of have a hesitancy of wanting to be with their unit.
Sure.
They had an American first lieutenant as an advisor with them.
Yeah.
And so we were in the compound, so we were getting fire, right? And so we manned the perimeters and so forth. And all our trucks had 50 caliber rings on the top, on the front. If any probe, we would have used the 50 calibers. But I remember that we expropriated hand grenades because that's how fearful we were of being overrun because it was a small compound. Now, in this compound, they had this sort of like compass with an arrow, and it had sort of sterno-type contraptions on the arrow. So when they were being attacked and they were being probed from the west or the north or the south, they would turn the arrow to the direction, so if there was any helicopters that came in, they could see where the enemy were from above.
Oh,
they could
really?
see, yeah, they could see it, and they would, shoot in that area and so forth like that. We did take we didn't take any casualties at all.
But this was all jungle around you.
Oh
too.
yeah, I mean we're talking about double, triple canopy,
Yeah.
right?
So you couldn't really see anything out
Well,
there.
you could, and there were people, there were Vietnamese on the perimeter, and there was Americans on the perimeter, and what else? They did a patrol. The Vietnamese went out on a patrol, to chase them away and so forth like that. I mean, that was, and then what happened is the next morning we got up. I can remember seeing smoke and everything. Smoke was always a tactic that you used. You had smoke pods or something like that, because the smoke of war and so forth like that. But you could use it for a cover. They're big pods like that, and they're handles, and you just take and it produces smoke, so you can be covered with movement and so forth like that.
Listen, we've got to wrap up.
Oh wow.
We're going to have to do one more half an hour.
Okay.
Because there is more.
Yes, there is. Very much more.
Thank you very much for being with us, Dean. And we will be back another night with another half hour of this really incredible story. Good night.
Thank you.
magazine in its second issue tried to explain to me that and he wanted to know that what he could do if they would improve. In one greater city, become a monument to the courage and faith of the unsouthern Americans. Buffalo hunter who with his great show made huge from these broken streets.
Hi, welcome back to the History Show. We have a real special guest. This is the third part of our conversation with Dean Contover, who was in Vietnam in 1966 and 1967.
That's correct.
And has a lot of interesting stories to tell about his time there. If you are a veteran or you know a veteran who might want to tell their story and have it archived for the National Library of Congress, you can contact Allie at the Chelmsford Senior Center. She happens to be executive producing this program. Dean Contover, thank you very much for joining us here.
Thank you very much for having me.
When we left you, you were you'd been in Vietnam for about 3 or 4 months, and you were at the beginning of Operation Duke, in which basically you were assigned to build a airport on the coast. Airstrip. Okay.
Difference.
Yeah, I guess so. An airstrip on the coast about 50 miles north of Quy Nhon. And you had, when we left you, actually, you were in a compound run primarily by the South Vietnamese Army?
That's correct. There were no American military in the area.
And there
infantry.
and you had your engineering brigade?
No, we were handpicked specifically for this operation. It was called the 1st Provisional Element. I can't remember specifically, but it was the 1st Provisional. These particular people were handpicked in regards for this operation.
How many of you were there?
I'd say there was probably, in our unit, close to 170 people.
170 people. And you guys were basically going to carve an airstrip out of the jungle there.
Expand it and widen and lengthen an airstrip that was already there.
The compound...
LZ English is the name of the airstrip.
Okay. The compound that you were in, was that where the airstrip was going to be, or was that...
No. In fact, we were convoying to the area to encamp once we got there.
So, how long were you at this compound? Did the compound have a name or anything?
No, there was no. It was just a small little compound, Vietnamese.
Out in the jungle?
Yeah, sort of.
Was there a village nearby or anything?
Yeah, it was off Route 1, basically. There was villages nearby,
yeah.
You know, nothing to speak of. You know, homes here and there and so forth like that. We were at this compound, as I was telling you. There were probing actions at night, no problem. We got some rest. We had to wait till the road was swept. Every day in Vietnam, the engineers, the combat engineers specifically, it didn't really matter whether it was combat, it could have been construction engineers, had to sweep the roads and make sure that the roads were not mined for anti-tank mines.
And were those sweeps always successful? Or?
In most cases they were, but what the Viet Cong used to do is put plastic over the mines, so when the sweepers would come and sweep, they wouldn't come in contact with any metal, and it prevented them from contacting the metal that would give them a reading that there was metal under the ground. Because basically these roads were not always paved. I mean, there were potholes, etc., so it was easy to slip in the mine.
Now, I guess one of the difficulties in Vietnam, as in a lot of wars like this kind, is were you beginning to, I mean, you had to begin to wonder exactly who the enemy was, because they might be working in the village during the day, right?
Right. Well, in the area that we were operating on Operation Duke, there was the 44th Regiment of the Arvins were in that area in Ban Son. We were just north of Ban Son in the village of Day Duke. We convoyed from that location that I told you about to the village of Day Duke. And we encamped on the ridge line across from the regimental headquarters of the 44th Regiment.
Now, Duke
we set up. Excuse me.
Oh,
The
go
Duke
on.
was on Route 1, and we were just off Route 1.
Okay.
Maybe 100 or 200 yards from Route 1.
And Duke was where you were going to build
That's
the
that strip. Expand it and widen it.
expand it and widen it. Sorry, yeah. And it was an airstrip for what?
Basically, it was an airstrip that the United States military must have used in regards to helicopter and small liaison planes, what they call L-19s and Otters, I believe, small sort of Piper Cubs planes that could land there and so forth like that. I don't think that we were there to build an airstrip of about 3,500 foot airstrip. All my experience was building airstrips of 3,500 feet, enough to land the C-130 there. Because it's very important to look at the length of airstrips.
Yeah.
Being an engineer, and 3,500 was the maximum or the minimum we could use to land the C-130.
So what did the process involve?
Moving a lot of dirt, expanding it, making sure it was padded down, that it was hard. A lot of times we put pure steel plankins together. We hooked them together. It's a lot of tedious work because you had to hook these panels. They were as long as some ladders were, and you just hook them together.
All these supplies had to come in down the road through the jungle.
Yeah, our food and so forth like that had come in and so forth.
And how large?
So
was
we ate sea rations for 2 months basically.
How large was the village of Duke?
Duke was basically a village probably of maybe 200 people, 300 people.
So
but we hired them to work on the airstrip too.
Okay.
It was interesting because I had lived in Europe and I had learned some French, and one of the elders learned French, so he would speak to me in French, I would speak to him in French, he would speak to his counterparts in Vietnamese, and I would speak to my counterparts in English.
Wow,
to get
that's
things.
a complicated process.
Yeah, it was
to go
complicated, but for them to understand.
Yeah.
And I think he studied in France. I think he told me he did study, but he was a peasant. It seemed like a peasant or some sort of elder. I mean, it was just interesting.
Now, as far as you guys being stationed there, I mean, was that a jungle area?
No, it was
there?
basically the main priority in that area, in that valley. They grew rice, and they wanted to prevent the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong from getting rice, because rice is very important in regards to food and generating energy and fighting combat. And they wanted to prevent the rice from getting into the hands of it. And that's basically why I think we were at LZ English expanding and lengthening the airfield.
Now, were there many North Vietnamese or Viet Cong around there?
We were attacked. We were attacked periodically from at nighttime.
How large a base were you at this time?
Oh, we're talking about maybe 170 people all crammed in with tents and foxholes.
Oh, so there's not a whole bunch of folks there.
Oh, there's not. You know, we're not talking a large area.
And most of you are engineers?
We're on the ridge line, yeah. We're all engineers, basically. You know. And you know, we had night guard duty and so forth there, and then we had machine guns on the corners of the perimeter and so forth like that. One day I could remember asking the lieutenant if we had any flares, hand flares. They're elongated about this size, and you take the cap off, and there's a primer in there, and you put it on the flare, and you hit it with your hand or you hit it with your leg, and the flare will go up. Well, they didn't have any, and what happened is I went over the Vietnamese unit, the ones that were protecting us, the mechanized unit, and I asked them if I could trade sea rations for a flare, because I wanted at least a flare, you know, if somebody came in. So, like I said, we were on the ridgeline, and one night we were getting attacked, and we called in for illumination from the Vietnamese, and they said they only had 4 illuminations rounds left for their mortars, and they didn't want to use them. So the firing got heavier and heavier and heavier. So what I did, and being in the infantry in Panama, which before I went to Vietnam, I was used to tactics and so forth like that, and I had fired hand flares before. So what I did is I fired my hand flare over the ridge line behind where the enemy were shooting at us and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And the firing ceased because I think they caught him off guard. And usually a flare that goes up in the air, you're able to visually see them. So of course they had to lie down
Yeah.
and not fire their weapons.
Right.
And then the Vietnamese, the 44th Regiment, fired their a couple of flares out of their mortars and lit up the sky, and that ceased the probing.
What for someone who's never been under attack, as most of us, I mean, what's that like at night in Vietnam? I mean,
Well, I mean, even when we were convoying from that little Vietnamese camp to our position, the Army personnel carriers were in the rice paddies, and we were getting sniper fire, from the tree lines of the beautiful palm trees. I mean, they're
Yeah.
beautiful. I mean, over the rice paddies, and they were firing at us. And I told my driver to let it go. I mean, and then he started shooting, and then everybody in the convoy started shooting in that direction. But the Vietnamese panicked because we were shooting behind them, and they didn't know, because we were on the road, and they were set into the paddies with their 50 calibers on the Army personnel carriers.
Sure,
Excuse
yeah.
me. It was just, I'm just trying to recall it.
right, yeah.
So what happened is I can remember looking out my window, and boom, there was this big explosion. The mortar hits the rice paddy. And like you see on television, the water probes up and it expands. Exactly what it did. I said,
Yeah.
holy moly. I mean, this is a real McCoy.
And
we were lucky. We got to our position, but one of the last trucks got hit with a mine. They hit a mine, and it probably was one that I rolled over, but I was lucky. Either I missed it or depressed it just enough.
yeah.
So what happened is the last Jeep took the guys in there, and they grabbed the radio out of the truck, and we went into the position and so forth. And then we set up a position with concertina wire and so forth like that, and that's where we lived for 2 months.
So this is basically a small base
It wasn't
out
even
in the
base.
boonies.
Yeah, yeah.
You had
No protection, no aerial protection unless we called it in, and by the time it got there, we could have been wiped out.
and the kind of probing attacks were somewhat regular.
Yeah, periodic, not every night, but they were enough to harass you and keep you on your toes. The anxiety level is very high there because you're always,
Yeah, on the edge.
yeah.
What was so night there? I mean, basically during the day you're working.
We work 12-hour shifts.
You would work 12 hours,
Sure.
so you're working hard.
That's right.
Out in the hot
From
sun there.
12 midnight to 12. My shift was 12 midnight to 12 noontime, and then we ate, and then we went to sleep and so forth.
Were you driving bulldozers or anything like that?
We were driving trucks, scrapers, earth movers. I'm just trying to think of.
Was this a dry season or rainy season?
This is dry season. Luckily, we were in the dry
Okay.
season. Rainy season gets very cold there, enough that you have to wear a jacket
Yeah.
and a sweater. I mean, it gets very cold.
So at night, after you've done a 12-hour shift, I mean, what would you? I mean, you weren't going to sleep though because you were.
Write a letter. Hopefully, it gets where it's supposed to go, and you go to sleep. And I think we spent 2 nights in the foxholes, basically.
Were there helicopters coming in? Or?
Occasionally, they came in, and near the end. They brought us hot meals and so forth because we were on sea rations for 2 months.
And sea rations back then were not kind of like the
MREs that they have today. No.
Like what kind of food would you? I just don't know.
They'd have franks and beans and lima beans. And,
that mystery meat.
yeah, the mystery meat. How we would heat them up is we would put them on the manifold covers of the trucks. And when we ran the trucks, it would heat the sea rations, and then we could eat them. Because a lot of times, the grease and the grime would be thick if you opened it. So we would just heat them there in that way, and then we would eat them.
How long were you there for?
What, in Bonson, in the airstrip?
Yeah.
On the LC English? 2 months.
And did it start to wear on you?
No, because basically, it didn't wear on me. I wasn't afraid. Down the road, there was special forces. They had a special forces compound down the road near Bonson.
Yeah.
So we went into Bonson. which is a sort of a major town there.
What would the population of that?
I would say population of that would probably be 5,000 to 10,000. So forth.
Now, when you would go in there, was that like a civilian clothes or?
No,
or-
we would be in our fatigues and so forth.
Oh,
like
okay,
that.
but you would go on there as kind of a have a little fun, or I
No,
mean, it
not
wasn't-
really. It was all business.
Oh, it was all business. Oh,
There
okay.
was no fun in Bonson. No fun.
Oh,
It was-
okay. That sounds
that
like a
was-
saying.
yeah.
No fun in Bonson.
No, yeah. It was no fun. I mean, I can remember we were going. We were near the Special Forces compound right outside of Bonson, and we heard some firing, and we ran down there. We grabbed our rifles and ran down there, and it was the South Vietnam Army trying to take some young men into the army, and they had run away, and they were firing at them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we thought it was some Viet Cong or something
Yeah.
like that, but they were firing at the
Now, what do you think about
draftees.
the South Vietnamese army at this point? I mean, were they?
Well, I'll tell you, when we were on the convoy and they were supposed to protect our convoy from that small little compound to where we went
Yeah.
to the airfield, you'd see them playing cards off the road, and they weren't, where we would be more intense and more motivated and so forth. They were just relaxing and they were playing cards and so forth like that, and there was no big deal. They were just, our protection going in with the heavy equipment.
How about your relations with the Vietnamese themselves?
I
mean,
had no
this-
problem with them. I like the Vietnamese people. They're very nice people. They just were stuck in the war. And,
Yeah.
and we were stuck in a war. And basically, as far as I was concerned, it was a civil war.
Yeah, but as part of the situation, and I guess this has to be one of the tough things, you didn't have any problem with them. At the same time, you didn't know really who was your enemy or not,
That's true.
because,
That's true.
it was,
Or who were spies, too.
or who were the spies and
Right.
stuff. So,
I remember one day that we were LZ English and in town at Day Duke, we had our binoculars on a group of people, and we were told that these guys were Viet Cong taxpayers, collected money from the people. So they were shaking them down too, like everyone
yeah,
else. So
sure.
I mean,
yeah. So you were there for basically 2 months, and
yeah, Operation Duke, 2 months.
and
then-
where'd you go from there?
From there, we went back to Queen Anne, but we went overland. The roads and the bridges had opened up to the south, because remember, we made a landing by sea.
Yeah.
And then we went convoy to the south. In that situation, we had escort, and we also had a L-19, which was covering our front, flying, watching for any positions or
Yeah.
any ambushes up ahead, and so forth like that.
And then after that?
After that, I was assigned to the B Company of the 84th Engineer Battalion. I went back up to Bonson, convoyed back up, and then convoyed back, and then assigned back to the B Company of the 84th Engineers, the An Khê, basically the home of the 1st Cavalry, which I was there prior to going to Bonson. 84th Engineers were building the airstrip again up there,
Yeah.
but this one was supposed to be a concrete airstrip that you could take in the big planes. But my dealings with airstrips were basically 3,500 feet.
Yeah.
In fact, when I got to Queen Anne after I was leaving, the airstripping, no, Cameron Bay, I'm sorry, when I was leaving leave for the States, the airstrip was like 1,100 feet concrete airstrip. We were looking at it like, wow, this is just amazing. I mean, look at this airstrip, because we were always in the boonies.
How about the land in it? I mean,
Beautiful.
So you did.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
But at the same time, you have this mix of.
Well, I think I'd like to go back again. I mean, because in those days I was in a green OD uniform, and it was. I'm sure it'd be different, completely different now in civilian clothes, and
Yeah.
it would be completely different.
Towards the end of your tour there, what I mean, were you having different thoughts, or what was it just doing your job?
Well, I was doing my job. I was RTO for a lieutenant, radio telephone operator, they call him. I would handle all traffic and so forth like that in regards to his wishes and so forth like that. It was an interesting job because I got to know what was coming over the radio and everything. I would listen to everything. And he wanted me to stay for 6 more months to extend
Right.
Because I guess he enjoyed my company and so forth like that.
Yeah.
And he was a recent college graduate of Xavier, I believe it was. And he was a white lieutenant that was new to the world and so forth like that. His name was McGovern, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
McGovern?
McGovern, yeah.
Okay.
Not like Senator McGovern?
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
remember,
Well, Senator McGovern, I believe, was a pilot for B-25
That's
in
correct.
World War II.
You are correct.
Yeah.
He had over 20 missions, too. He was
Yeah.
I think he was awarded the Distinguished Service Cross, but that's another
Right.
story.
Yeah. So some of your, the reflections, as you were leaving Vietnam, kind of what were you thinking?
I was glad to get out of there. I didn't want to extend for 6 more months, even though he promised me the promotion to a sergeant.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was a specialist.
Well, you weren't thinking of making a career out of the
No,
Army?
definitely not. Definitely not. At that time, because what would happen is I'd be rotated back to Vietnam.
Yeah.
If I made a career of it, I might go to Vietnam. I was there 66, 67, and they didn't get out till 72. So technically, I would have been there maybe 2 or 3 times,
Sure.
or at least 2,
Yeah.
to get back. To get back there.
How about what were you thinking when you left, though? Was it?
I was
the big
I was disappointed in regards to the big picture that we didn't go to fight to win, go right to the north and take it to them.
Yeah.
We just sat there and let them take it to us. And it seemed like it became an institution over 10 years of Vietnam in regards to, I'm talking about government institution that didn't want to win the war. They just wanted to sit there and they made money off the war. And
Oh, really? So you thought, almost became like an industry, or?
Yeah, exactly. Because you had to change arms, you had to make ammunition, you had to make bombs. Remember, my unit was basically all males. There was no females in my unit in Vietnam. They didn't have females. They did have them in the rear, and I think 1 or 2 females did die in Vietnam, but mostly it was all male.
Did you, when you would go to, how long were you in there altogether in Vietnam for?
A year.
A year.
Yeah.
So did you have a leave where you could?
Yeah, you could go in R&R, and I wanted to go to Taiwan or Taipei, but I wanted to wait till the 10th month I was there. But then the options didn't open up, and they wanted to send me to Japan, and I didn't want to go to Japan.
Yeah.
So I just didn't go on R&R.
Oh, so you never?
No.
Did you spend time in any of the other larger cities, Saigon or anything like that?
Well, just periphery. When I was there 3 days when I
came in
the country, and I left through Cam Bay because they had changed the replacement companies. Either you can leave from Saigon or Cam Bay.
Did you spend much time in Cam Bay, or?
I spent 3 days there at the beach in Cam
And that's a nice beach, isn't it?
Yeah, it's beautiful.
When you came to the United States,
And the best duty in Cam Bay was being the lifeguard at
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. I found that out. It's too bad afterwards.
when you came back to the United States,
I was assigned to Fort Dix, New Jersey for 8 months.
now was there a huge culture shock coming back?
Well,
basically you had kind of been in the jungles for a year.
Yeah, most of the time, yeah.
There was some in the, some of the smaller towns and stuff.
Yeah, when I went to Queen Anne, it was only for maybe a week or 2 or something
Yeah.
like that to get prepared to do other things or go other
So
places.
you've been living off of sea rations?
Well, in An Khê, which is, the Central Highlands where the 1st Cavalry was, basically hot meals every day.
Yeah.
Because, like I said, it was a
okay.
base camp of 9 square miles and the biggest heliport in the world.
And you had probably movie theaters and stuff like that?
Oh,
or
yeah,
any
definitely. Yeah.
entertainment?
Oh, yeah, we had movie theaters, yeah.
Till
Till the five-star cluster was fired and we were under attack and all the lights went out. We had to run back to our compounds and so forth like that.
How about the, you never had Bob Hope come in? Or
Yeah, we did.
Did you see him?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Really?
December 26, 1966, day after Christmas, at An Khê, Vietnam. Yeah.
Wow. And so, what was that like? Out of
It
curiosity?
was surreal to some respect because you were brought up with the Korean War and the World War II mystique of Bob Hope being in that, and your fathers and uncles and so forth had probably seen Bob Hope.
Yeah.
And now another generation seeing a Bob Hope in Vietnam was like, wow, this is, Bob Hope is here. You know,
Yeah.
I remember the stories of Bob Hope and watching on television. Let's go. I mean, and he had, you know, some beautiful girls and so forth like that.
Right,
you
he'd
know,
bring the
and-
Playboy
yeah,
bunnies or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like
yeah.
that, right?
Yeah.
And of course, you guys out in the base there were probably going crazy.
To a certain degree, you know, some people were. I wasn't.
Were there other shows or other kinds of entertainment coming
Yeah,
in
they
there?
had USO shows. A lot. I remember seeing a Filipino rock band come in and so forth. I mean, a lot of Filipinos. There were some Filipino troops there too, but not within our area.
Did you happen to see any of the Australian troops?
No, they were in the South
Oh, they were, okay.
and New Zealand.
And the
And
New Zealand troops.
They were in the South.
And the Korean troops eventually left before us, right? Or most of the other
I presume
folks
most
did.
of the Allies basically left before we did.
Yeah.
We were the last to leave, basically.
When you came back to Fort Dix,
Right.
I mean, was there, I mean, coming back to the United States, was there a culture shock or were you pretty well adjusted?
I was pretty well adjusted, but there was a culture shock knowing that some of my friends were in Vietnam and people were having a good time in the States.
Yeah.
You know, that type of culture shock. I mean, that was, I had to adjust to it and so forth. And my anxiety level coming back and so forth, I mean, I would look up alleys and so forth all the time. I mean,
Yeah.
For at least 2 or 3 years after I came back. I mean, it was, you know,
How much longer were you in the Army?
8 months.
Oh,
So
8
it was
more
sort
months.
of like it was a come down and relax
Yeah.
aspect of it. And then I got out. It wasn't like I was in Vietnam the next day or next 2 days I got out of Vietnam. I mean, for some people it was, and it was a shock for them.
Now, after that, you went back to college and
That's
kind of
correct.
majored in history, and you brought a lot of your experiences with you,
Right.
as
I
a
did.
lot of veterans did and stuff.
Right.
But you also went into the campus that was probably all sorts of anti-Vietnam War.
You know,
protests going
as
on.
far as I'm concerned, this is America, and you have a right to demonstrate and do what you feel.
But did it bother you? Or?
No, it didn't bother
Oh,
me.
It didn't?
It didn't bother me because I probably agreed with them.
Oh, okay.
You know, I mean, it was one
Well,
of
actually,
those-
because I'm thinking, I mean, I'm a few years younger with me, but I remember the Vietnam Veterans Against the War coming to our high school. And
Oh, I knew some of the players. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean,
Yeah.
I knew some of the players in regards to the anti-war movement.
Yeah,
I mean, you have to think of these guys coming back to Vietnam, seeing their friends killed, and saying, "Hey, we weren't out there to win. Let's win the war." You know?
Sure.
I mean, it was just a war we didn't win. Wars are to be won, not to lay down and wait
right, yeah.
and contain.
Sure.
You fight to win, as
Yeah,
far as
yeah.
I mean, the history of warfare in my family goes back to the Iliad. So I mean,
Homer wrote about him, huh?
that's right. They sent 10 ships to the Trojan War. So,
Oh, wow. Gosh.
So
Well, listen, I thank you for your service. And,
Thank you very much.
You've got a, real bunch of great tales to tell.
well, I mean, I don't really tell a lot of people these tales. I mean, it's probably the first time publicly I've shared them with you. And
Yeah.
So forth. I mean, there were
I hope
times.
it wasn't too painful.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, as a history major, I want to get it on record.
Sure, I
mean,
think it's incredibly important. I mean, if you think about right now, if we had, for instance, the oral records of like guys who were in the Civil War, and somebody, 100 years from now
Right.
can actually access that. Figure if somebody's doing a story in the Vietnam War,
Right.
500 years from now might be, looking at this DVD that hopefully is
preserved and saved. Yeah.
yeah. But anyway, thank you very much
Thank
for
you very
joining
much.
us.
I probably
And-
have another hour and a half to go, but I mean,
I tell you, I would love to have you. And I think what we're also going to try and do is maybe insert some of those photographs in it and stuff.
Okay, very
but,
good.
Dean,
thank
thanks
you
a
very
lot.
much. Yeah,
Enjoyed
appreciate it very
much.
much. Yeah.